I walked away from the Democrat Party in summer 2020 after a lifetime of voting Democrat, and for the most part, it's been nothing but an overwhelming and warm welcome from patriots and people who were here before me. But sometimes, not often, but sometimes, I get the sentiment, either directed at me or someone else who's walked away, I get the sentiment of, oh, you took too long. Other people might forgive you, but I can't. That kind of sentiment. And like I said, it's mostly a warm welcome, but I see this enough that I feel the need to highlight today just how destructive and false that sentiment is. It's foolishness, because you're here to win, I'm here to win, we're here to win. We're here to take back our country. And that means we need to be strategic, not just right. We need to be strategic. I think most people would agree that we are at a very critical moment in our nation's history, and I'm not just talking about the election. We're at a very critical moment in our nation's history. A lot of people would use the language of war. Some might call it a culture war or spiritual war. Hopefully it's never, ever a kinetic war. But when you're in a war, unless you are winning, you're not really in a position to turn away soldiers who want to fight for you. So unless you think we've already won and we already have it in the bag, and again, I'm talking about the election, but I'm not just talking about the election, then you're not in a position to be acting holier than thou and saying you can't forgive someone for not being on your side sooner. That is foolishness. That's not strategic. It's not how we win. It just makes you feel good because you feel like you were right first and you're very self-righteous, but it's not strategic at all. And I understand the temptation to be vindictive, to want to seek retribution, to be unforgiving. But you know this in your own personal life, when you act that way, just on a micro scale, it usually comes back to bite you in the butt. And it's not strategic. It's not effective. It's not how you win. It doesn't make any kind of sense. It makes you feel good for a moment, but it's not how we take back our country. Because what's happening right now is the left eats its own. We all know that. We say it all the time. The left eats its own. I experienced it. Almost every single walkaway story, including my own, starts with, I didn't leave the party left me. Now, admittedly, I have since left the party because I did some research and realized I actually align with conservative values and policies. But I would have never had the opportunity to do that if first the Democrat Party didn't leave me. Because what happens with these people, because they're cultists and they're ideological freaks, is you can check every single box, but if you deviate even slightly from the party line, from the accepted narrative, suddenly you're persona non grata. That's what happened to me. I was a progressive. I was a Democrat. I was very liberal in many ways, socially liberal. I had all these weird ideals and everything, but suddenly in 2020, I had questions about the response to COVID, especially when compared to the response to the BLM riots. And then suddenly I was persona non grata. Because I had genuinely just because I had questions and concerns. It didn't matter that I fell in line with LGBTQ or abortion or anything else. Because I had questions, suddenly I was a racist. And that is what happens to so many people who end up walking away. Because they chew up their own and then they spit them out. And we need to be here to welcome the patriots who they spit out. Because they're basically serving patriots up to us on a silver platter. And that doesn't bring me any joy. I don't like that this happens to people. I don't like that this happened to me. It's a painful thing to go through. It's a very humbling thing to go through. But it is something the left does. They eat their own. And we don't want to become what we're fighting against. We don't want to become equally as exclusive and say, no, you can't sit with us because you weren't here soon enough. And also, who are you to be the arbiter of what is soon enough? You know, there are people who, many people, myself included, who walked away in 2020 because that was an extraordinary, unprecedented time. But there are people who walked away in 2016. There are people who walked away during Obama's second term. There are people who walked away during Reagan's presidency. There are people who never, ever had to walk away and never voted Democrat in their entire lives. There's always someone who you're better than. There's always someone who you could shun if you really want to. But again, how is that going to help us win? How is that an effective strategy at this critical moment in our nation's history? It's not. It makes you feel good for a moment because you get to say, I was here first. That's basically what it amounts to. And you get to be unforgiving and vindictive. When we are in a war and your enemy is not the person who wants to be your ally, who suddenly woke up and walked away and now wants to be on your side. That's not your enemy, okay? Now, I'm not saying you need to trust these people with your whole heart and your whole life. You don't need to be my best friend. You can think I'm really stupid for voting for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Heck, I think I'm really stupid for voting for Hillary Clinton in 2016. But you still need to welcome these people as your allies. That's how we win. That's how we become the big tent, the umbrella, the unity ticket in this election and beyond. That is how we win. That's how we become the unsilent majority. And this is not me saying that we all have to sit around and hold hands and tolerate everything and affirm sin and everything you do is okay because we're just the big unity thing. No, there is right and there is wrong. There is truth and there are lies. And what I'm saying is that if someone genuinely recognizes the lies and the manipulation of the left, the lies and the manipulation of the modern day Democrat Party, which is insanely radical, the lies and the manipulation of the legacy media, if someone genuinely recognizes those things, recognizes how they were wrong in the past, changes their tune and walks away, then we need to welcome them because they are an ally. That is what I'm saying. That is how we win. And the last thing I want to say on this subject is, for example, it's my understanding that RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard walked away from the Democrats after I did. They were still there in 2020 and RFK Jr., tried to run as a Democrat this year. I walked away in 2020. So I could sit here and say, well, why weren't you here sooner? You didn't get here as soon as I did. But that would be foolish because these are two people who happen to be doing way more for the movement than I maybe ever could. They're helping more people walk away. So you never know what someone's going to end up doing for this movement, end up doing for our cause. A lot of times the people who've took the longest to wake up end up being the most passionate because they've been hurt the longest, because they know what it's like to be on the other side, to be falling for these lies and manipulations. So it would be silly for me to sit here and say, you didn't get here soon enough. It would be silly for me to sit here and act self-righteous. It's equally silly for you to sit here and act self-righteous towards me or towards someone who wakes up tomorrow. And I can promise you that if someone woke up tomorrow, and someone will, who, let's say, bought all the COVID propaganda and cheered when I lost my jobs and all of that, if they woke up tomorrow and admitted how they were wrong and walked away, I would welcome them because that's how we win. It's the only way to win. The world needs more people like me. And I say that as humbly as possible because I'm one of millions. I'm far from the first person to tread in this arena. The world needs more people who can change their minds when presented with new information and new experiences, admit, even publicly, especially publicly, that they were wrong, evolve, and change. The world needs more people like that. People who are humble enough and self-aware enough to do that. That is a good thing. We should be celebrating every single time someone walks away, including when it's tomorrow. When you want to be unforgiving and self-righteous and you think it's too late and you think back to the COVID or you think back to this or that or the other thing, it doesn't matter because this is how we win. If someone genuinely walks away, we welcome them. It's the only way to win. It's the only effective strategy. It's the only smart thing to do. And as I said, mostly I've been overwhelmingly welcomed, but I see this sometimes from patriots, from Christians even, from conservatives, from Trump supporters sometimes. I see it just from otherwise like-minded people of, other people might forgive you, but I'm not going to. You got here too late, blah, blah, blah. It's not the way we win. It's not the way. We are becoming the unsilent majority, and the only way to do that peacefully is to welcome people when they walk away.